Hey friends, so I'm back today doing a staple in Trinidadian homes, and that's roti. And this roti I'm going to show you guys, it's actually prepared with ghee. You can also use butter or oil, and ghee is clarified butter. It's really high in fat. It's made by simmering butter and removing the fats from it, and that's why it's so expensive. It's a really sacred ingredient in Hinduism, and we use it in pujas, in prayers, and everything, in weddings, in funerals. So because of the intense process that butter goes through to create the ghee, that's why it's so expensive, and a lot of people resort to using vegetable ghee, but it's actually really high in cholesterol. So if you're using ghee, I think you should use the cow brand ghee. It's in a green can, and I think it's the most famous ghee. So if you can find that, that'll be great. And if you don't want to use ghee at all, you can also use butter or oil, and that's totally fine. But this roti is actually made like a French pastry. So we're gonna fold the butter into the dough, and then I'm gonna roll it out with my bailna, and I'm gonna roll it out and cook it on my tawa. And I'm gonna use dabblers. I only have one dabbler, so I'm actually using a dabbler and a spatula for mine. And you can also use a spatula if you don't have any dabblers. So I remember when I was small and for Diwali, when my parents cooking roti for Diwali and we bothering them in the kitchen, they used to run us down with the dabbler, and sometimes we would get a dabbler like on our leg or on our butt or something. So those were really fun days. I'm sure y'all could relate to getting licks with a dabbler. You're a true Trini child if you got licks with a pot spoon or a dabbler or a belt. So if you don't know what paratha is, it's not like a regular flatbread. It's actually like a roti that we mash up. We kind of beat it with the dabblers to get I don't know how to describe it, but the name is actually bus up shit, but people call it bus up shot. So that's what we call it in Trinidad, bus up shot or paratha. So that's why it got the name bus up shoot, because it looks like a torn up shoot. So that's how it's gonna look when it's done, and it's really delicious, and it goes well with a lot of different foods like vegetables, meats. I'll link a recipe below to a food that it goes well with, which is curry chicken, and I'll have a few more coming soon, and I'll link it below. So first we're gonna start off with 3 cups of flour, and you also want to have some ghee, about 1.5 tablespoons of ghee, and 3 teaspoons of baking powder, and a little dash of salt, probably like 1 teaspoon. You're also going to need enough water to create a nice moist dough. So you're also going to need a rolling pin, or a bailna as we call it back home. And that's all you're going to need. And you may need a little more ghee or a little less, depending on how much you want to use. Okay, so first you want to add some salt to the flour. Now we're going to add the 3 teaspoons of baking powder. And I'm just going to mix it together with my hands to mix the salt and baking powder into the flour. So now I'm adding my water to create a nice moist dough. The dough is nice and moist now, and I use 1.5 cups of water, but you may need to use a little more or a little less depending on the humidity of where you live. So now I'm just gonna leave this to sit for a while, and then we could start working on the parathas. And you want to put a wet paper towel or a wet cloth over this dough just to keep it nice and moist. So I have my dough here covered with the paper towel, and I'm just gonna form this into some smaller dough balls. And this recipe that I gave y'all will make about 3 parathas. So I'm forming it into 3 balls. So keep a little bowl or a little plate with some flour on the side, just to dust your working surface or your hands so that the dough doesn't stick. Now we're gonna flatten this dough a little, and we're gonna baste it with the ghee, kinda like when you're doing a French pastry where you fold the butter into the dough. So I'm going to show you all how to do it. So you want to dust your counter or your little surface here and flatten out the dough, and you can roll it out a little bit. So I'm dusting my working surface with some flour, and I'm going to roll out this dough a bit so that we can brush the ghee onto it. So this is a good size now, and I'm going to cut the top here about 2 inches long. Now I'm going to brush it with the ghee. And you're going to brush 3/4 of the rolled out dough. And you're going to leave this little piece here, the top. You're going to leave that free. You just want to dust this part that we didn't oil as yet. We're going to dust it with some flour. So now I'm going to show you guys how to roll this dough. So you're going to keep rolling it like this, and you'll see the layers over here. This is what you want. So you're just going to keep layering it. And when you reach to that end with the flour, stop. Now we're going to take the end and we're going to tuck it in underneath here where you see these swirls. You're going to tuck everything in. If you can pinch it and hold everything and just tuck it in. And then you place it onto your palm and you kind of press it down a little and you make a hole in the center. Okay, so those dough balls that I filled with the ghee, I have them in my bowl here. And I'm just gonna brush them lightly with some ghee on the top. And you're just gonna let them sit for about a half an hour again. So it's been another half an hour, and you want to put your tawa on medium to high heat while we roll the dough out to make the parathas. So as my tawa is heating up now, I'm gonna start rolling out the doughs to make the paratha. So you want to flour your surface just so that it doesn't stick and break up. And I'm just gonna press the dough down with my hands to flatten it. And turn it over and do the same thing. And flour it also. Now I'm gonna roll it out. And you wanna roll it out so that it gets nice and round. And just keep flouring it as you roll so that it doesn't stick up. And I like thin parathas, so if you want it thick, you can stop here. But I like it thinner than this. So you want to make sure the dough is the same thickness throughout so that it cooks well when you put it on the tawa. And this is probably a good for me. So I'm just gonna set this aside, and I'm gonna show you what I'm gonna do with the tawa now. So I have my hot tawa here, and the ghee that I told you about, the 1.5 tablespoons, I ended up needing a little more. This is probably a next tablespoon and a half. So the tawa is hot now, and I'm just gonna take this ghee and brush it on there. And it's gonna leak to the sides, but that's okay. You just have a lot of cleaning up to do after. So when it's nice and melted, now we're gonna put our dough on there and kind of just spread it out onto the tawa. And I'm gonna brush more ghee onto this. So to tin these, you're gonna need dabblers. But I only have one, so I'm actually gonna use a spatula as well as the dabbler to tin it. And as you see it starts swelling like this, I'm gonna take the dabbler and just push it underneath and turn it. So you see those nice brown crispy spots? That's what you want. You want it to get cooked really well on the outside. Now we want to start breaking it up. So you want to take your dabbler and your spatula or your next side of your dabbler, and you're going to just press down a little and pull it towards the center. And now you're going to turn it and do the same thing. And you're just going to start beating it. See how it's starting to break up? That's why they call it bus up shot, because it looks like a bus up shirt. It's actually bus up shirt, but they call it bus up shot. Now we're going to turn it over and do the same thing. Okay, it's getting really nice and crispy. If you don't want it so crispy, then you'll have to turn your heat down a little more. But this is how I like it. And just pull it towards the center of the tawa so that the ends get cooked nicely. And then you're just going to transfer it onto a plate lined with paper towels. Thank you so much for checking out this paratha video today, and I hope it wasn't too difficult for you guys. So just send me a comment, let me know how it was, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for staying tuned, and I'll see you guys in my next video.